Okay. I had already prior made a PlayStation video, but like by the time that video would have gotten out, all the information from it was like, out of date and everything like that. I'm not going to release that version. But maybe some stuff I might take away from that because I talked about some Xbox stuff. I might do that one, probably not, but I'm making a brand new video because new information came in today that has to be talked about. And like I said, they are cherry picking the data here. I knew they were. And so this is my last time I'm going to talk about it because this video is the most important one. But yes, PlayStation is cherry picking the data here to move into this all digital future. And they just proved my point. And I think a lot of people's point. There was a post on X, or it was, I wonder if it was on X. There was a post by Pirate Nation. And it shows this. I'll show the post right here. He says, only 7 PlayStation games have sold more than 100,000 physical copies in the US so far. The figures were shared during the ongoing debate over Sony's decision to stop production of first-party physical PlayStation games in 2028. While many gamers say they want physical games to stay, the data shows that most people are still choosing to buy their games digitally. And they show these games. It says EA Sports FC 26, which is a soccer game or a football game. Resident Evil Requiem, 007 First Light, Crimson Desert, and Ghost of Yotei. Now, when you look at those numbers, you're thinking, oh, that's pretty low. But however, they released this picture showing it. And they're using 7 titles as an example. And like I said, they are definitely, without a doubt, cherry picking. Because look at the 2 titles that they are choosing of those 7 titles. Arc Raiders and Forza Horizon 5. If you don't know, both of those titles are digital only. So how can you say there are only 100,000 copies sold if 2 of the games that you're using as an example never had physical copies? Don't you think that's a little disingenuous? Don't you think? To say 2 games that never sold a physical copy. Forza Horizon 5 did in fact have a physical copy, only on Xbox. But on PlayStation, it was only sold digitally. Arc Raiders is only sold digitally. Why are you using only digital titles to set an example of physical copies? Also, they're using a sports title in this measurements. I've noticed with people who, when they buy sports titles, they're already going to dump thousands of dollars when it comes to their microtransactions. So buying it digitally is a no-brainer for them. So that's not really a good example when it's so much more convenient, especially for those sports fans, to just sit there and just buy it automatically. They're gonna go that route no matter what. Crimson Desert and First Light and Resident Evil Requiem, I want to point something out there, and that is what these companies like to do. Like, if they're already cherry picking certain obvious data that makes no sense, it's also not surprising that these companies can and do manufacture scarcity. I barely saw 007 First Light in any store I went to. I went to one of the biggest Walmarts that I could find, and their PlayStation section is a joke. It's almost non-existent. Their Xbox section is non-existent. The only one that actually had some games there was the Nintendo. So yes, some of these numbers are off. Heck, even with the Resident Evil Requiem, I've actually talked to people who said they went to go buy themselves a copy at Walmart. They didn't have any on day one. So they go buy the digital. These companies know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They say, yes, they're pivoting us there is a pivot of us going into the digital realm, but they're forcing that pivot. It's not an organic pivot. It's forcing the pivot. So here's the thing I'm going to talk about right now. And this is why I'm saying, not only are they showing they're cherry picking the data on saying people are not buying digital because they're using 2 digital only titles as the example to buying physical. So not only are they clearly cherry picking, they're cherry picking everything else. Now, I'm going to preface something to you all. I can't stress this enough what I'm about to say. This is a guess. I'm not a great mathematician. I used to work in a receiving department. I was a manager there at the receiving department of a store for a while. I knew numbers. I was really great with the numbers, but I'm not an expert at this, okay? I'm only using the information that was either from the Insomniac leak or what they do release, okay? You usually keep those numbers of sales pretty close to the T. They barely let them, they barely release numbers at all. And also, I don't have a piece of paper that shows me exact numbers as to what is sold. So what I did is I tried my hardest as best as I could. And the reason I'm not going to show you my work on this is because I don't believe it's to be completely true. Because again, I don't have the information in front of me. I'm only guessing as to what is out there on the internet. You know, taking from the Insomniac leak, taking from all the other leaks that came through, even from this recent post. So I'm taking a massive guess here. It's not legitimate. It's not a legitimate thing. I'm just taking a guess. I have no reason to lie to you. I gain nothing from lying to you of what this is. So that's all I'm saying. I'm just taking a massive guess as to what's really going on here. So taking from the information from the Insomniac leak, using the numbers of units sold, I think Sony is not lying to you when they're saying physical sales have dropped off. However, it's in context as to why they're dropped off. If you go to their digital sales, if it's not a ball game, such as football, American football, soccer, baseball, basketball, or a gun game, if it's those kinds of games, they've shown a massive amount in growth in terms of digital sales, okay? If it's a ball game or if it's a gun game, yes, they even prove it, they've shown a massive growth. But when you look at something that's not a ball game or a gun game, something more like storyline games, the digital sales seems to hover around the same area between 2 million to 3 million. I've noticed that the sales numbers for digital, when they're only strictly digital, it varies in between. Most of the times when they official records of sales numbers in the digital realm, it's very tight-lipped. It's really hard to find things official. When I tried to find information about Resident Evil 8, that's been a game that's been out for a very long time, and I wanted to compare those sales numbers to Resident Evil 9, a lot of the times what I got told was that a lot of the numbers, the sales figures that they showed are rough estimates. They're not official numbers that Capcom gives. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I'm just beholden to the internet. Just much of like what much of you are. Other than that, when it comes to digital sales, they pretty much stay the same, depending on the title. I think like games like Resident Evil Requiem, which they do use in this graph, is like I said before, on select titles, they do have a marginal growth in digital sales. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone is pivoting towards digital. Like I said before, these companies do manufacture scarcity. If you can't find a physical copy of something, you revert to something else. At least you got the option to do so. But the thing is with digital sales, it is extremely hard to find anything about any of these sales number figures. I had to like really scour very hard to find anything. I'm surprised we even got this, and even that is just trying to fit a narrative. And I understand that this sales is the beginning of the year 2026. With the information that is given to me on the internet, because they keep that stuff tight-lipped, from what I could tell, the growth is marginal. It's like only a few 100,000 or so. And it really does depend on the title. I think everyone was expecting, Resident Evil. Everyone was excited for Resident Evil 9 Requiem. But that doesn't mean that's going to be consistent with other titles. Take, for example, Grand Theft Auto 6. I think it wouldn't have mattered whether that game released digitally or physically. People were going to buy it. They just so happened to say, yeah, it's digital, and everyone started to buy it. It is to use that narrative to push a digital-only market. While everything else, it's either there's slight growth or they plateaued or made no significant changes. Going back to the physical sales, they're not lying to you when they say physical sales have dropped off. But from what I can tell, the reason why the sales of physical games has dropped off is not because everyone's shifting to digital. I think it could be one of two factors. One could be the factor that it's an aging out demographic, meaning a lot of people are just not getting into video games like they used to be. They're just not doing that anymore, so they just move on to other things. The other reason could be, and possibly more than likely, is due to the factor of inflation. A lot of things have gone up in price. You have consoles that are going up in price. You have video game software that is going up in price. The thing that gets me the most is that even though they show these sales numbers, I'm surprised that it's not more. I'm going to use two games as an example to convey what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry that it's not making much sense, but hopefully this will work out and does make sense. I'm going to use the game Resident Evil 9 and God of War Ragnarok. Now, I understand these two games are wildly different. This is more of an action horror game. This is more of an action game. However, that really should not matter if we are to believe we have this pivot shift in terms of people going in the route of buying digital games. Okay? We should see the significant jump in numbers if that were to believe. And when I was trying to do the research through all this stuff, including the Insomniac leak, it always came to the same number in digital sales from what I can gather. Again, I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm doing the best that I can. If you look at Resident Evil 9 in terms of its sales in that graph, it says 3.5. Yes, I understand Resident Evil 9 just started while God of War Ragnarok has been around for a lot longer. Again, that shouldn't matter if we are to move to this digital realm, okay? If you look at the sales, though, a percentage of that is the physical sales. So if we take that off, we're looking about around 2.5 to 2.6 million digital sales. Over here on God of War Ragnarok, if you look at the Insomniac leak into another leak that showed like 76, I think it was like 76% of physical sales to, I think, 24 digital sales, you're looking at 11 million total sales. You're looking at roughly applies to 8.4 million physical sales while still looking at 2.6 digital sales. And while I understand Resident Evil 9 just came out, that should not matter if we are to believe that PlayStation is telling us that everyone's buying digital, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if you look at the physical sales, they have dropped off immensely, but while the digital sales seems to stay in the same area. That has not changed for select titles. If you take a look at other games from the past, so you look at games from 2021, such as Resident Evil Village and Monster Hunter Rise, their digital sales hover around 2 to 4 million digital sales. You look in the year 2023 with Assassin's Creed Mirage and Star Wars Jedi Survivor, their digital sales hover around 2 to 4 million sales. And if you look at other titles, with these first-party titles, with the information I could get from 2025, this is the only ones I could get. If you look at Ghost of Yotai and Death Stranding, they too hover around 2 to 3 million, give or take. The only one that I don't have a full actual record on is Death Stranding 2, because the only one I can find was 1.4 million units sold, and they said, I think digital sales were a bit higher than the physical sales. But that was like a couple days after its release. Probably by now, in terms of digital, it probably is higher. And these, again, are first-party titles, not third-party titles like those other ones are. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that you're not seeing that significant growth when you're seeing the digital sales either. You're not seeing the people that are transferring over from buying their physical games going over to digital. In fact, from year to year, it seems like the numbers for physicals keep going down, but the number for digital, it seems that it just stays stagnant, or some have shown slight growth, but not enough to be able to say, yes, people are buying digital. And I do believe that's also in part because I think people who buy digital are going to buy digital no matter what. But people who buy physical are more let's just say, frugal with their money. They're probably going to be more likely to not buy things, especially if they don't see it in the store or they just don't buy it at all. You're just not seeing that significant growth over there. Even going back to this report, like I said earlier, shouldn't these numbers be a lot higher for these games, considering the factor that they released on digital? The only significant growth that you will see, it's either ball slop games or gun slop games, and the occasional racer. Those also sell pretty good in terms of digital sales also. Everything else doesn't show growth. And if you're wondering, where the fuck am I getting these numbers from? Like, where is he getting these numbers, out of his ass or something? This is all what is provided online. These are rough estimates, analytics, everything. What they may or may not say, these are all guesses. Until PlayStation themselves, Capcom themselves, all these companies themselves gives you a legitimate report, I'm basing what I'm seeing by the Insomniac leak, by this new report, and everything else that all these other news sites are saying what the percentage are in terms of their sales. And they're just guesses too. That's all that I'm taking it from. Again, give me the fucking paper in front of me and I'll give you an actual estimate. If you're good at this, if you are a whiz at math, go figure this out. I encourage you, go figure this out and prove me wrong. I'm not doing this to lie to you. I'm just saying what I'm seeing from what everyone is saying. So you have people that are probably not buying physical games, but they're not necessarily buying digital games either. Yes, there is a growth, but it's only on select titles. If they're using select information when it comes to this, I'm not putting it past them to use select information to say that 85%. But I'm only using the information that was given to me to make an assessment. Okay? I wish I could. I wish I can do this. There's nothing I gain from lying to you. Okay? There's absolutely nothing that I can gain from lying to you about this entire endeavor. Okay? But it's very disingenuous that PlayStation is using certain games to pivot everybody away from physical media into digital. Then the only reason they're doing this is that they want complete and utter control. Because if the CEO of GameStop is saying used games and their game sales only equivalent to 12%, so why is Sony going after these secondhand markets? If GameStop, one of the biggest that sells secondhand games, is only showing 12%, what about these other places? These mom and pop shops, these other stores that sell games secondhand? I wonder if their growth in terms of games is lower than that. If the secondhand market is showing very little game sales, why is Sony so worried about that? I wonder if piracy is even smaller than what they think it is. Yeah, there might be a lot of people that have done it, but there's not a lot of people that know how to do that. So my guess here is strictly this. They're removing physical media because it's all about control. That's it. It's control. It's control over everything you do. The DRM policy they just rolled out a couple months ago that everyone got upset about can literally be now implicated more into the games now. Heck, even games that come on physical discs have to have an internet connection required to it in order for it to be playable. Single player games need an internet connection. This has nothing to do with the secondhand market. This has nothing to do anything of stopping piracy. This has everything to do with control. Controlling everything that they got, what you do. That's it. Where you buy your games, how you buy your games. The problem is, if there's not going to be a lot of people that are buying physical, due in part because of inflation, what makes you think they're going to buy your games digitally if it's not a ball game or a gun game? Look, here's the thing, and that's the thing. I wish I can show you. I really wish I could show you, but I don't think it's all exact. It's just a guess. I wish I could show you exactly what I did and show you every little detail. But I can't show you. They only show units sold. They don't show you which units are sold. They don't show you Steam chart. They don't like you can get some Steam charts because they're the only one that's transparent. But I don't know anything else. I don't know what counts as a digital sale when somebody has a PS4 copy and they can use that PS4 copy to buy an upgrade version of a game for $10 for a PlayStation 5 game that was originally cost $70. They use those as measurements too as their digital sales. So it's very, like I said, it's all cherry picking data. All of it is. All right. And I'm only taking a massive guess as to what it could possibly be from what I can gather from the leak information of the Insomniac leak and what's available online. I truly, truly hate modern gaming. I truly hate modern gaming. I'm not going to, this is the last video I'm going to make about this stuff. This is the last time I'm going to do about it. There's nothing I'm going to do or say that's going to change anything. People are going to have to put in the fourth of effort to make actual change. And if people are going ahead and just buying Black Ops because they feel nostalgia or dropping money for GTA 6, you know, they pretty much got you where they got you, you know? And people make a fourth of effort. I'm not buying a PlayStation 6. We're probably not going to see a change. And they may have something on that. They may have something. I don't know. I hope not. I hope people are smart enough to realize that they're being pressured into this stuff, but I don't know. So yeah, that's all I could take away from that. That's it for today's video.